mostly what I'm here to talk about tonight is search, particularly local search, mobile search. SEO is, I feel like, always the biggest topic to tackle, at least from my experience with clients. It's the thing that everybody wants the most but knows the least about. So hopefully we can clear up a few things tonight. But yeah, as Tim said, I'm the Director of Digital Strategy at Well Done Marketing. We're in Fountain Square, and we're a full-service marketing agency, so as well as all the digital stuff that my team does, we do pretty much everything else, print, radio, commercials, and the like. But in the last few months, we acquired our Google partnership. So we get a lot of good insights from Google, a lot of good work with them as far as paid and organic search opportunities and insights. So a lot of what I'll share with you tonight is coming straight from the source, from Google, studies they've done about search behavior and how to make the most of this opportunity that we all have to stand out when people are looking for us most. So in addition to digital strategy for clients, I'm also, like probably many of you, a small business owner. My mom and I run Lemon Tree Cookies. We just have been doing this kind of really big for the last year maybe, but aside from the, I think, $20 I spent on a Facebook promoted post once, the entirety of our growth has been organic. So search has been huge for us. It's given us a lot of good opportunities for publicity. So from client side, agency side, to actually running a business, I'm a huge believer in search and the doors that it can open. It's kind of become our modern version of word of mouth. So it matters. It's super important. Before I was at Well Done, I came from an SEO agency background, so a digital agency that specialized in SEO, and I was kind of there in the middle of this transition from SEO being this kind of shady black hat, spammy, scammy sort of thing into becoming real content marketing and digital marketing. And so a lot of what I've heard about SEO is just it's just kind of black magic. I don't really know how it works. Isn't that keyword stuffing sort of thing? And it used to be, but it's changed a lot, and I think that in order to succeed in search now, it's really just a matter of having good digital marketing, good content, good user experience on your website. So that's kind of the focus of today, what we're going to talk about tonight. But regardless of what search has been, I think that nobody would argue that it matters a lot. According to Google, there are 3 billion search queries every single day. 1.1 trillion searches per year. So this is the primary tool that I know, at least I use for everything. I feel like it's kind of eliminated even conversation and things like that, because people just look stuff up. I do all the time, and that's also what all of our audiences are using. So regardless of your industry or your location, your audiences are using search to either find you or your competitors. And a little bit more on the evolution of SEO. I kind of talked about this history of keyword stuffing and metadata and hidden text and leaving links in blog comments, and that actually worked, and it was crazy, and companies blew up just having people post links places, and then it changed a lot, and now it's about quality content, and even more than content, or in addition to content, it's continuing to evolve, and it's about user experience. So not only the user experience that people have on your websites, but before they even get to your site. So Google has data on what people do on your site. That's why Google Analytics is free, because they're tracking everything to use to make search smarter. So they know when somebody hits your site from a search query and they leave right away that your site's not relevant to that query, or the content in your site isn't relevant to that query. So they're using that data, and they're using the data of interactions before they hit your site. So there are a million ways that people can interact with your content that's not on your site. So map apps, click-through rate on searches, click to call on Google Maps and things like that. So search has really become this like hyper local, hyper mobile sort of thing. And that's what I'm going to focus on tonight. According to Google, since 2011, and I think this little metric is from 2014, searches for near me or closest or nearby or anything of that variation increased 34 times over. So I think this is an incredible reflection of how we interact with technology and how it has really permeated our lives in a really, really important, really meaningful way. And I was saying earlier tonight, sometimes it's hard to make the separation between being a marketer and being a person who just uses the internet and uses my phone all the time, because on one side, I want to be able to know how to manipulate this and make it work for my clients and work for my business. But on the other side, I'm really glad that it's so complicated and it's so challenging, because it's really most useful that way. So I think, it'd be hard to argue that the way we live and interact with each other and with businesses and with our communities hasn't changed dramatically in the last few years because of search and because of particularly location-based search. So I'm going to let Google actually introduce how they are kind of framing this concept of what search has become. They're using this term micro moments to identify all the situations that people really depend on and turn to search, and how we as marketers or as businesses can show up in those moments that matter the most to our audience. So if I can maybe bear with me. So in typical Google fashion, they make you tear up a little bit, and they also make you feel like what they do is the most important thing in the world, and it kind of is, I think. So micro moments, what Google is calling this whole landscape of search now. We've got 4 of them. I want to know moments, I want to go moments, I want to do, and I want to buy. So I think that we can all relate to these probably, because like I said before, we all do this anyway, regardless of being marketers or business owners. We're all searchers. We all use the internet, we all use search. So what's really incredible though is how much all of these different intents and all of these different directions that people are taking when they turn to their phone or they turn to their computer to find something out, how much these have changed over the last few years and how much they just continue to grow and become more and more significant. 65% of online consumers are looking up more information now than they were a few years ago. And almost the same number, 2/3 of smartphone users are using their phones to actually find something more behind a commercial that they saw. So we're using our phones, we're using search to dig a little deeper into everything we see. We question everything, and we're using our phones, we're using search to help us with that. People are using mobile search to get to real places. So sometimes you think, well, I'm just, my business is brick and mortar, I just need to show up there and I'm fine, but people can't find you if they can't find you in search. And half of that is, your website presence, half of that is what you do on social, and it's across all kinds of different mediums. And like we said, that near me search interest has just continued to increase even in the last year. It's doubled since 2014. I want to do, and that's another opportunity that you have to get outside of just your own website. So YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world, right behind Google. And in the last year, over 100 million hours of how-to content were viewed on Google, or on YouTube, excuse me. So people are turning to video to figure out how to actually get something done, how to accomplish something, how to do something. And a lot of that content is coming from brands who know their audience and who know how to answer the questions that their audience has that might even be 1 or 2 steps before they're necessarily a part of the picture for purchase or anything like that, but they're kind of warming up their audience to say, hey, listen, we know what we're talking about when it comes to cars or something like that, and later down the road, they're still there when their potential customers might turn into real customers. And then I want to buy. So again, this isn't just e-commerce anymore. While a lot of people are making purchases on their smartphones, more and more all the time, a lot of people are also using, search and mobile phones to check items while they're in a store. Hey, this looks like a good camera, but what are the reviews like? How much, could I find this cheaper somewhere else? So we're turning to search for all kinds of different things. And there are a million things that you do or that you can do to, help your website rank, all kinds of boxes to check, technical, content, and otherwise. And I'm not going to talk about many of those today, although I will touch on a few. But that can get really technical, and it's so specific to your business. And while it's really, really important, what I want to focus on today are the strategies and kind of the overarching themes that whatever your industry is or whatever your audience is, to make sure that you're hitting these items. And more than half of smartphone users have discovered a new company or product when conducting search on smartphones. So that kind of goes with the first stat. This is a real opportunity to show up if you're willing to do the work to get there. So what do you do to get there? The first thing you have to do is to know the landscape. You can't do any of the ranking tactics or the optimization tactics until you know the situation. So you just have to search for the keywords that's relevant to your business. Particularly if you operate locally. So these are the search results for marketing agency Indianapolis, and there's a lot of paid ads, which is not surprising. And if you scroll down the page, you'll get your traditional organic results, but in this first little section here are the map results. And I chose this one because Well Done does rank first for this term, which is great. We don't rank first for all the terms, but we do for this one. And I think that it's, there's a lot in showing up there, and particularly for location-based searches. Excuse me. To have that visibility not only in what you do, but in your community, right there in that map. So you need to search for what you do. You need to pay attention to where you are and where you're not, and where your competitors are. So if you're conducting searches and your company's nowhere to be found, pay attention to who is there and what they have on their websites, what they have on their Google My Business profiles, what they're doing on social. just collect all the information that you can and find those patterns among the businesses, the websites, the pages that are doing well, and see, what are you doing that's missing? And not only patterns in their own content, but in patterns in search results too. There are so many different kinds of search results. So we've got paid, we've got different kinds of paid results. There's paid map listings, there's paid shopping ads, there's organic listings, there's maps, there's video, there's all kinds of rich content that can show up. So see what kinds of results are showing up for the different types of searches you're conducting, because that'll tell you a lot about the intent behind that search. Google knows more about search intent than anybody, and if the results that they're showing for a specific query are all the same kind of thing, you can bet that that's what people are looking for when they search for that term. So do your research, find out who's there, find out where the gaps are between you and your competitors, and search listings. And that's when you can start to fill in those gaps with your own tactics. A few other tools for doing some of this research on the current landscape. The keyword planner tool is a free tool from AdWords that will allow you to do some keyword research and see if the language that you think your customers or your prospects are using to try to get to you are the keywords they're actually using. So if you just Google AdWords keyword planner, you'll have to sign up for an AdWords account, but it's free, it's pretty easy. And it shows you the search volume behind any keyword that you can come up with. So if you say, well, you know what, I think people are really searching for lemon porcelain sugar cookies, it's going to tell you they're absolutely not, because that's not a thing that people search for. They're probably searching for custom cookies or wedding cookies or, kids' birthday cookies or something. So find the language that your customers are using and use that instead of your jargon. That's my little plug for keyword research. It's very important, it's very useful. So key questions, kind of just summarizing mostly what we talked about in that one slide. Consider the search topics for your brand, your category, do the research. Excuse me. And conduct these searches on your phone and on desktop, because the results are going to be different. So, when you're searching on your phone, you get location pulled in. You're always going to get, maybe apps that you use that are going to have an influence on this. And if you're able, conduct incognito searches as well. So pretty simple on desktop, especially in Chrome. If you just right-click on your Chrome and open a new window in incognito, it's going to ignore all of your search history. You won't be logged into Google, because all of your historical searches affect the results that Google shows you. So if you want to search from the perspective of your customers, do an incognito search. And again, the share of voice, this idea of share of voice and what's the gap between you and your audience, you and your competitors, mobile versus desktop. Really figure out how much of the landscape you take up and what you need to do to get where you want to be. And then finally, making sure that you have content that's not just at the bottom of the funnel, as we say in marketing speak. I feel like people either love talking about funnels or they loathe them. I fall somewhere in the middle, I think. But kind of going back to that video content, it's really important to have content that meets your audience's needs regardless of whether they're ready to make a purchase or not. So maybe they're just kind of curious, dipping their toe in the water. If you're the first one they see, if you're their first impression of your category, your industry, they might stick with you when they're ready to make a purchase too. So keep track of the kinds of content you have in different points of the funnel. So that is there. That's where the there is, but how do you get there? That is where being useful comes in. So it's not just important for people, it's important for search too, because basically Google has become smart enough that it looks at websites like a human would and decides, is this really helpful? Is this really useful? Is this really meeting the needs of a person? And if so, it's going to reward it. And if not, then it won't. So good user experience, helpful content is important for humans and search engines alike. Again, here's this whole idea of changing people's minds because of useful content. Over half of smartphone users have purchased from a company other than the one they intended to because the information was useful. And a ton of people, almost 3/4 of consumers, say that regularly getting useful information from an advertiser is the most important attribute when selecting a brand. So again, this idea of educational content, especially snackable, I think that's a really fun word. These little nuggets of things that are helpful and not just a sales pitch. Because people aren't just using their phones to make purchases online, they're using their phones and they're using search to research longer sales cycle types of purchases. Purchasing a home, finding the right college to go to, purchasing a car. These are not things that anybody's going to do online. These aren't transactions they're going to make online necessarily, but in every little moment they can, waiting in the grocery line, waiting at a traffic light if you're me, digging into that research and oh, can I afford that house? Or, oh, what about this one? My husband and I just bought a house and I was on Zillow every moment of every day. And that's what people are doing. They're not sitting down at a desktop for 3 hours of research anymore. They're getting it in chunks on throughout their day. So if you can have little nuggets of content for them that actually help them in the process when and where they are, that's just going to help you remain visible and helpful and useful. And again, user experience. I keep talking about this, and it's so, so, so important. And again, to talk about my husband, he's a developer, and we go home and we talk about this stuff every night after work because we really just geek out on it. And I'm a huge believer in good user experience being way more important than the right words on a page or than a pretty website. You can write content all day that might have the right keywords and that might explain your business in the best, most eloquent, most beautiful way. But the reality is that people don't really read words on a page on websites anymore, if they ever did. You have such a short amount of time to gain the attention of your audience. 6 seconds, I think, is the attention span of most people online. So if it's not clear and apparent what you're there to do or what you have to offer or what someone can learn from spending time on your site, in 6 seconds, they're not going to stay. So that comes down to navigation, that comes down to finding the content that they're looking for without making them try too hard. 69% of smartphone users are more likely to buy from companies whose mobile sites or apps help them easily find answers to their questions. So again, what does that mean? It means that it has to be easy to find and it has to be quick, and we'll get more to this speed thing later, but if they don't find what they're looking for, 40% are going to be less likely to come back to your site, 28% will be less likely to make a purchase from you in the future, and 29% will immediately go to another website or app. So that means that because you didn't do a good job of communicating what you do to your audience, they're just going to go to your competitor to find it. So useful user experience in your website is the most important thing. What can you do outside of your own website? Because that's, again, where a lot of people are finding information. Google search has made it, and it was so frustrating, I think, to a lot of webmasters and marketers and businesses for a long time that, well, wait a minute, people aren't even coming to my site anymore because they're just getting all of this information on Google. They're seeing my hours, my phone number, how to get there, And I think it took a minute before people realized, like, this is an incredible opportunity, because if I just participate in this conversation, I still have control. It's just less work for my audience to get to me. They don't even have to come to my site anymore. They can find everything I want them to find without having to work that hard. So that's where something like Google My Business comes into play. Every business you see on a Google map, if it's got all the information that you're looking for on that listing, it's because they've claimed their business and they've optimized their listing and they've added all this information. So if you haven't already, find your business on Google Maps, claim your listing, get it verified. There's a bunch of tutorials from Google on how to actually do this. But you can add things like photos of the inside and the outside of your business. You can actually have Google Street View teams come to your cafe or even your marketing agency or whatever it is, your brick and mortar, and they'll do the whole Google Street View inside of your business. And I'm pretty sure it's free, and you just have to call them, tell them you want to do it. So if you've ever seen, they do it a lot on hotels, and I think Bluebeard even has it. If you go see Bluebeard's listing here in Indy, down in Fletcher Place, you can actually see the inside of their restaurant, and I think that's so cool, and it just makes me want to go to all those places that have that. So this lets you manage how people see you on Google Maps. And this is the front end, this is what people see. So where you are in the map, what your hours are, what your website is, phone number. People can leave reviews here, which they don't do much for marketing agencies, but they do for all kinds of other businesses, and those are really helpful and really important. Location-specific information is also really significant, especially if you are a business with multiple locations. Having the ability to tailor the content that you provide based on where someone is, which is, it takes some programming, it takes some work, but it's definitely doable now with, GPS, and your phone always knows where you are. So if you can make your website tailor that content to people's location, they are more likely to buy your stuff. 61% of smartphone users say they're more likely to buy from companies whose mobile sites or apps customize information to their location. And 71% of smartphone users say they've used a locator to find a location. So not only are they looking for something relevant to them, they're also looking for you through store locators in addition to Google Maps. So the more that you can do on your website and through Google Apps to help people navigate to you is always a good thing. What about these I want to do moments being useful for these folks? This is where, again, video comes in. Back to that set of 100 million hours of how-to content being viewed on YouTube this year. People are looking for this stuff like crazy, and this is another one of those things that just keeps getting more and more popular in search. People are searching for this stuff all the time. And while it's a lot of work to make a video and a lot of effort, it's not actually that much, but it's harder than writing a blog post. I think the value that comes from this is limitless. I mean, you can actually gain really loyal followings by having people turn to you as the trusted source for how to accomplish what they want to do. And if you shoot a 30-minute video, that's 6 5-minute videos or 10 3-minute videos. So you can break it up and make it work for your scale, your size, or your budget. And anybody can shoot a video on an iPhone. Although, some of them are really bad, so don't do that all the time. 53% of smartphone users feel more favorable towards companies whose mobile sites or apps provide instructional video content. So there's the data to back up the fact that people really respond well to having that video content, having that helpful instructional content. And being useful for I want to buy moments. This again is kind of that idea that it's not just e-commerce, it's not just people making purchases on their phones, it's about helping them make purchases in your store or helping them get all the information they need to eventually become a lead or talk to a salesperson or become a customer, whatever it is that is, your business model, work towards that and everything leading up to it. So, I personally have two very different sales cycles that I have to think about with customers. I have people buying cookies, which is like, yeah, I'd like some cookies in a couple weeks. I'll just call and order some, and those look good. And then I have clients who are engaging in, year-long contracts and spending tens or possibly hundreds of thousands of dollars on huge marketing campaigns, and that's a much longer conversation. And I'm sure all of you have something on either ends of the spectrum or somewhere in between, or maybe something even shorter. Just like, hey, I want that, I'll buy it now. One-click purchases. So whatever your business model looks like, whatever your sales cycle is, make sure that you're creating content every step of the way that's going to help your audience, help your customer decide to work with you instead of somewhere else. So key questions for usefulness. Think about what it is your audience needs to learn about you and answer those questions. Put yourself in the shoes of your customer. If you've developed personas, that's great. Tap into those. If not, just think about what it is your audience is trying to do even before they make a purchase, and seriously, just answer those questions. Whether it's a blog post or a video, just give them something they need to be helpful. Do consumers want to visit your business? Are you helping them find nearby locations, highlighting in-stock inventory, mobile search results, mobile site, anything like that? How are they getting there, and how are you helping them? This whole idea of doing online research, even when you're in a store, what can you do to help people get to your store if that's the situation? How can you turn their online experience into an offline experience? What are consumers doing with your product or service? And do you have how-to video content to support those efforts? If they're buying a home, what else are they doing surrounding buying a home? Of course, there's the mortgage, but there's also furniture shopping and decorating and, maybe even starting at square one, finding a realtor. Everything that you can do to help support them in that process is good content. And where are consumers buying your product? How can you support them if they're buying in-store or while on the go? And are you empowering consumers to check out in whatever way suits their needs? So again, that whole location, device agnostic idea of just being helpful whatever the situation is. And I think I'm running out of time, so I will speedily continue. Be quick is the final thing. And I'm not very good at that, thanks Tim. 29% of smartphone users will immediately switch to another site or app if it doesn't satisfy their needs. We talked about all the things they do instead. They won't come back, they won't make a purchase, they will go somewhere else. But what do we mean when we say it doesn't satisfy their needs? 70% leave because the site takes too long to load. 60% are leaving if it takes too many steps in the purchase to get their desired information. So I touched on these a little bit already, but again, this is all about user experience, and part of that is navigation and design and architecture and site infrastructure, all that stuff. And a big part of it is speed. So you can check your page speed. I think this is coming later. I'll tell you in a minute how you can check your page speed. But it's very important. You can also help your website visitors in this process by eliminating as many steps as possible. So, a little screenshot from Amazon of their one-click purchase. So this is really sophisticated. Obviously, it's Amazon, but if there's anything that you can do to help simplify the process, you know, auto-fill forms or anything like that, to just help so that people don't have to keep putting their information in. I think a few months ago when Mitch Causey spoke here about their Lessonly, like, huge surge in conversion rate, it's because when they brought people to that next step of actually like downloading or getting the free trial, they already had all their information filled out for them. So people didn't have to do that again. So eliminate as many steps as you can. Anticipate your audience's needs. So this is a screenshot of the mobile version of a website that we built at Well Done for Wheaton Moving, and we knew that when people were on the go, on mobile, they weren't trying to like read blog posts and like explore Wheaton services. They just like wanted to figure out how much it was going to cost. So we put that estimate, that ballpark estimate, front and center on the home screen of the mobile version because we knew what the audience wanted to do in that context. So think about not only the content but the context. Where is your audience? And what are they doing, whether they're on a mobile or desktop device? Here we go, page load time. Google has this great tool, it's called Page Speed Insights, and again, if you Google it, you'll get there. And it will diagnose any page on any website and tell you how fast it takes to load and what you can do to help improve that page load time. So there are some easy things in here to fix, and there are some things that you'll need to work with your dev team to have them help you with. But again, really, really important. Here's that stat that we talked about in the beginning. 40% of shoppers will wait no more than 3 seconds before abandoning a retail or travel site. So if your page isn't loading, people won't stick around to wait. They'll just go somewhere else. So check this out. Another really good tool that Google has in some insights on mobile friendliness is just their mobile friendly test. And that's just kind of a yay or nay, like, yes, you're mobile friendly, no, you're not. And it's basically, you know, a check mark that Google gives to every page, and if you're not mobile friendly, they won't, regardless of how good your content is or anything like that, how many links you have, you won't rank on mobile devices. So check out the mobile friendly test, the page speed insights, to make sure that you are even capable of being visible on mobile. So these key questions, just kind of a recap for being quick. What's the key action you want users to take? How long does it take to perform it? And how can you help people streamline that process? Figure out the answers to those questions and eliminate anything that's redundant or unnecessary. Which functions on your mobile site are absolutely, positively, undeniably essential for your customer? What do you already know about your customer that can help you anticipate those needs? Make those things front and center. And how long does it take for your site to load? Make sure that it's not too long. So be there, be useful, be quick.